Hi, third grade. It's me, Mr. Walters, and I'm coming to you from the art room. So, for this lesson, we're going to be learning about a new artist. She's one of my favorites, and it's going to be a very fun project. It is already fall. I know. Where did the time go? So, we're going to kind of do a little project on pumpkins, I thought, and I thought this would be really fun. So, the artist we're going to learn about, her name is Yayoi Kusama. She is Japanese. So I'm going to go ahead and move myself out of the way here. And I'm going to present to you the slideshow that I made that kind of talks a little bit about her. So I'm going to go into present mode. All right. So Yayoi Kasama. What do you think her artwork is about? Just from looking at this picture, is there anything you can kind of tell me or think about that maybe her artwork might have to deal with? Give you a second to think about that. All right. So who is Yayoi Kusama? Yayoi Kusama is a Japanese artist who is sometimes called the Princess of Polka Dots. Why do you think she's called the Princess of Polka Dots? Looking at the previous picture and maybe looking at this picture, take a minute in your head and think about, why is she called the Princess of Polka Dots? Although she makes lots of different types of art, paintings, sculptures, performance art, and installations, they have one thing in common: dots. So there you go. That's why she's called the Princess of Polka Dots. What's with all the dots? Yayoi Kasama tells the story of how when she was a little girl, she had a hallucination that freaked her out. She was in a field of flowers when they all started talking to her. What? That sounds crazy. The heads of the flowers were like dots that went on as far as she could see, and she felt as if she was disappearing, or as she calls it, self obliterating, into this field of endless dots. This weird experience influenced most of her later work. By adding all over marks and dots to her paintings, drawings, objects, and clothes, she feels as if she is making them and herself melt into and become part of the bigger universe, she said. Our Earth is only one polka dot among a million stars in the cosmos. Polka dots are a way to infinity. When we obliterate nature and our bodies with polka dots, we become part of the unity of our environment. It's a very interesting quote. More dots. She also creates environments of dots so that we can experience this feeling of self-obliteration too. She calls these rooms her infinity rooms and creates them by installing hundreds of flashing colored LED lights into mirrored rooms. The pinpricks of lights in the dark room reflect endlessly in the mirrors, making you feel like you are in an apparently endless space. The dots surround and engulf you. It's very hard to tell where you end and where the rest of the room begins. So here is an example of one of her infinity rooms. It looks so cool. It looks like it just goes on and on and on and on forever. It looks like you could just keep walking down the middle of it. So this one is called Infinity Mirrored Room, filled with the brilliance of life. It was made in 2011. So she's a very, what I call contemporary artist, and she actually she's still working today on her artwork. So we'll look more at her artwork in a second. So how did she start? Yayoi was born in Japan in 1929. She loved drawing and painting. Although her parents didn't want her to be an artist, she was determined. So her parents didn't really want her to be drawing or be any type of artist. When her mom tore up her drawings, she made more. Oh man, that doesn't sound right. Her mom would tear up her drawings? How would you feel if one of your parents tore up your drawings? I know I would be really sad. But she made more. When she could not afford to buy art materials, she used mud and old sacks to make art. This is a drawing she made for her mom, or made of her mom, when she was only 10 years old. So about your age, she made this drawing. Looks pretty good, right? Eventually, Yayoi Kusama persuaded her parents to let her go to art school and study painting. That means she asked her parents a lot, and she finally was able to get them to say yes. So in the late 1950s, she moved to New York as lots of the most exciting art seemed to be happening there. So a lot of artists were working in New York, and she wanted to be where all the artists were working. It must have been a bit frightening arriving in a big city with such a different culture from what she knew. So she was from Japan, so she was going all the way from Japan to New York. So it was a very big culture change for her, and it was just probably really scary for her. But she was determined to conquer New York. She later wrote about her feisty attitude. I would stand up to them all with a single polka dot. And so here is a picture of her lying on the base of My Flower Bed, 1962 in New York. So this is one of her installations artworks that she made. All right, so what does this have to do with pumpkins? Well, let me tell you. Yayoi Kusama's instantly recognized pumpkins have become fixtures of contemporary art and popular culture. So that means a lot of people see them and they know, oh, this is Yayoi Kusama's work. So they've helped her make one of the world's most expensive. They've helped make her one of the world's most expensive living female artists. So she is one of the world's most expensive living female artists. That is awesome. Kasama began drawing pumpkins as a child in pre-war Japan, where her family owned a plant nursery that farmed kabocha squash. Her obsession only grew with time. So that's how she started drawing pumpkins when she was little. Kasama's signature dotted pumpkins have since appeared as works on paper, handheld figurines, towering sculptures, and in the artist's immersive Infinity Room installations. We're actually going to watch a cool video here in a minute, and it shows you those pumpkins in one of the installations. I think they're so cool. To Kusama, the pumpkins are warm and humorous motifs with figures that, at times, feel human. She says, I was enchanted by their charming and winsome form, Kusama once said. What appeals to me most was the pumpkin's generous unpretentiousness. So here's a picture of her sitting in one of her infinity rooms or one of her artwork rooms with one of her pumpkins. It looks like if she stood up, she'd probably be as tall as pumpkin, maybe just a little bit taller. Okay, so here's one of her infinity rooms, and we're going to watch this video together.
It's easy to get lost in one of Yayoi Kusama's infinity rooms, even though they're physically quite tiny. Mirrors and lights warp our perceptions of what is real and what is illusion.
We are living in a time when almost everything that we see and experience is through digital technology, through social media, through, our emailing, and so that is so much a part of our lives and our perception that she reminds us that there is this other aspect of, experiencing space that sometimes is more tactile.
To understand how Kusama reached infinity, you need to step into her white room. As a child, Kusama had a vision of polka dots. It led to an acute neurosis, which she confronted by focusing on dots in her art. Visitors are encouraged to stick them everywhere in this room, eventually obliterating the white and leading to oblivion. Which brings us back to infinity. At first, being in this room makes me feel incredibly happy. I'm surrounded by glow-in-the-dark pumpkins, for goodness sake. But after a couple of seconds, it actually becomes quite disturbing because this is probably the closest any of us will come to seeing what infinity must look like. And once you grasp that, you realize how utterly insignificant you really are. Most people inside these rooms immediately reach for their cell phones. This is, after all, the ultimate selfie. But not so fast, says museum director Melissa Chu.
If you are in this infinity mirror room and you don't stop and put down your phone, you're not truly experiencing it, because it's this moment at which you're alone in the cosmos in one of these pieces. And it's a very compelling, kind of poignant experience.
Get past the show-stopping infinity rooms, and there's plenty more to tickle the senses. Voluptuous sculptures, dots, appendages, dots, and more dots. Yayoi Kusama is arguably Japan's most important contemporary artist. This show reveals why her appeal is global. Jane O'Brien, BBC News, Washington.
All right, so that was pretty interesting. A lot of her artwork has to deal with infinity. So once you step into the room, you can kind of see with all the different mirrors, it looks like infinity. Infinity goes on and on and on and on and on and never stops. So that's a really big thing to think about. And this might be the only way that we can kind of grasp the concept of infinity is if we step into the room and kind of see that it goes on and on forever. So that is why I think her artwork is really interesting. So we're going to create one of her pumpkins. Let me exit out of here. We're going to make one of our very own pumpkins just like this one. It's not going to be 3D. I wish we could make a 3D pumpkin, but we will soon. Maybe next year. But we're going to go ahead and make ours on paper. So we're going to go ahead and play the next video, and I'm going to show you just how to make it. All right? Bye, guys.